without question, the very best money I ever spent was learning to become a very good trial lawyer, or at least a trial lawyer. Whether or not it was very good, I leave that for others.
When you're driven, the need to accomplish a goal is relentless. Hard work and ambition compel you to do whatever's necessary. In my work as a personal injury trial lawyer for 18 years, it's common to meet driven people. Those with drive can have different personalities, careers, or backgrounds, but they possess one common factor. Despite their passions, driven people want to surround and motivate themselves with other driven people. If you want to learn how to overcome obstacles by learning from others, then tune in here. This is the Driven Crowd Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to episode 49 of the Driven Crowd Podcast, fueled by Snellings Law. I'm your host, Scott Snellings. My guest today is the co-founder of Best Era LLC, Ryan McKeen. Ryan has over 18 years of experience in trial and litigation, spearheading efforts and achieving remarkable successes, including a landmark $100 million jury verdict for a client, among other significant victories. Ryan is also the celebrated co-author of the best-selling book, Tiger Tactics, Powerful Strategies for Winning Law Firms, as well as the newer version, the CEO edition, as well as a talented speaker and coach. He is also very soon to be Professor McKeen, as he is currently working on putting together his materials to teach the business of law at the University of Connecticut School of Law this fall. Ryan, welcome to the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Hey, Scott, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. Now, you and I have been, connected on LinkedIn for a while now and have messaged each other back and forth, and we've had a lot of communications that way, but we've never spoken before.
No, and as we were discussing before we went on, it's like meeting a friend that you've had for a long time for the first time, which is kind of a weird experience, but I guess in today's, connected world with social media, you can really connect and get to know somebody on a level it's wonderful. Actually, it's a real wonderful. There's a lot of downsides to various technology, but I think it's a real upside.
Absolutely, and I think LinkedIn probably does that the best out of any of the different social media platforms. It just has a different vibe to it, and people truly want to become connected and meet others and have these meaningful conversations and develop these relationships. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I do think it is the best platform for anybody looking to advance their career, meet other like-minded professionals. And it's so useful to me. I mean, look, I'm a dad. I've got two kids who are, going to be 11 and 14 this year, and getting out to local events is a burden. It's hard. Not that I don't do it, but the ability to comment as I'm waiting for a doctor's appointment or engage that way allows for a lot of access, I think, to people and ideas that I otherwise wouldn't have.
Absolutely. All right. So for those listening who heard me introduce you as the co-founder of Best Era, they were probably expecting to hear Connecticut injury law. So I think you have a little bit of an announcement for us here. Tell us a little bit about Best Era. What is that?
Yeah, so Best Era LLC is a consulting company that I have formed in the legal space. And really what we're looking to do is build products and solutions that I wish I had as I was growing my law firm or starting out on my entrepreneurial journey. So it's born from all of the lessons and systems and processes that we gained over the years at Connecticut Trial Firm. And we're taking those lessons and we're going to help other law firms, lawyers, and businesses in the legal space really thrive and make it their best era.
Oh, I like it. Okay. I told you we had to ask about the name, but I like how you put that together there. All right. So in the years, well, let me ask you this. How long were you with Connecticut Trial Law or Trial Firm?
Connecticut Trial Firm really starts in 2016.
Okay.
So almost 8 years. Yeah.
8 years. Okay. And then you were on your own solo before that. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. From 2013 to 2016, I was solo.
All right. So about 11 years building law firms.
And actually, a year before that, I had partners. So it would be 12 years building law firms, building 3 different firms.
three different firms. And so I don't know about you, but when I started building a firm, the consulting, the coaching, the mastermind landscape was 110% different than what it is today. There was not really that many resources out there in terms of, hey, how do you actually go build a law firm? Over the years, we've both seen that space kind of take off some. And so, what are some things that you're bringing to this area that are different? And I know you have plenty because you're a very forward thinking attorney than what's already out there.
Yeah. So what we have, we're targeting a few different things. Okay. And one of which is, yes, you mentioned that there is, a proliferation of coaching and masterminds and things. And honestly, like a lot of them are, I think, inaccessible to most lawyers because of cost.
Sure.
Some of the cost of these things and things that I've paid for are worth it, but they are very, very expensive. So one of the products that we're looking at doing is really making high-end advice accessible to folks who are starting out. We're also looking at building some online courses. So people who may need some more guidance specifically to do some things that they're going to have access to some great content, some great checklists, that kind of thing. And what we're going to do is if we do real consulting with firms, like, yes, that is going to be expensive, but that is going to be deep dives into financials, marketing, operations, personnel, all of those things. And that's going to be, a more limited fraction of our space, just given the time. We're also working, and I can't say too much about this, but develop with some partners in the space about developing some really exciting projects that I think are going to serve. There's one in particular that we're working on that is going to serve a specific need in the personal injury space that I'm really thrilled about. So we're not only working with law firms, we're going to be working with companies to build products together that I think add a lot of value to lawyers out there.
Oh man, you got my interest piqued with that one, Ryan. I'm super excited to hear about that. All right, so you've spent this time building the law firms that you're at. You're at Connecticut Injury Law. Why leap away from that? You've built a successful firm. You are always on the innovative side of things. Why leap into something different at this point?
Because it's here. I really think for me, at least, I think my career has probably been spent in, I think probably most careers this way, like 10-year blocks, right? So I really felt like the first 10 years of my career, like I learned to be a lawyer. And that was really important to me. The second 10 years, I really feel like I learned to be a business person and to run and to grow a firm. And I really feel like the next 10 years, or we can call it an era, is going to be my teaching era. And teaching is always just something that has excited me. And so when it's sort of like almost like one of those Steve Jobs things where it's like if you wake up in the morning, too many mornings, and you're just like, I don't know if this is for me, it becomes time to do something different. And it wasn't like we weren't successful.
Yeah.
Look, the firm's going to continue to be very successful without me, without question. But it just became, I don't know, I just became more interested at this point in my career, in my life, at the age of 44, in teaching and also starting over, and also starting something new from the ground up. It just seemed like the right time to do it. And when I was able to essentially effectuate a deal to sell my interest in the firm, it made sense at this point to walk away.
Awesome. I love how you split up that career trajectory too. The first 10 years learning to become a great lawyer, the next 10 years learning how to build a law firm, and then now going and teaching. I think that first step gets skipped a lot by younger entrepreneurs, especially lawyers, who want to come out, they listen to podcasts like this, they get inspired by people like you, and they want to come out and they want to start a law firm. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you got to be a good lawyer too. You got to know your craft. You have to be able to hold your own in those circumstances, especially if you're doing multiple practice areas, which I certainly don't recommend. I doubt you would either. But you just got to know it backwards and forwards.
Absolutely. Without question, the very best money I ever spent was learning to become a very good trial lawyer, or at least a trial lawyer. Whether or not it was very good, I leave that for others. But trying to learn from the very best in the business, the Don Keenans of the world, learn from the Rick Friedmans and whoever else I could really get any information from, going to see them speak, going to conferences, and trying to become really competent at my craft. And that understanding of things and how things worked optimally in doing those things and knowing the pain points, the struggle points, helped allow me to build a business around helping other lawyers in my firm meet those needs, whether they be financial, software, time, support, those kinds of things. I think it is very critical. I mean, if you want to be successful in the legal space as an entrepreneur, the very first step is getting good at what it is you are selling.
And I love the point of, hey, look, you got to get out there and do more than just show up to work, do your tasks, and go home and not even think about it. When I was a young lawyer, I did the same thing. I read books by the people who were amazing trial lawyers. I would go in and I did a lot of General Motors defense work at first, and we had so many documents I can't even begin to describe. But when I started grabbing stuff, I grabbed deposition transcripts, trial transcripts. I would read engineering papers. I didn't understand a lot of what was being said in there, but I had questions, and I kind of got the gist of what it was that we were looking for, and I would go ask questions. And I think that is such a hack in becoming a better lawyer is, hey, go ask questions, go see how the people who are really, really good at the craft do it, and then utilize it. Really pour it in there, and it just takes more than going to work, doing your stuff, and going home.
Yeah, and if you're a younger lawyer out there and you're listening to this and you're trying to figure it out or think about being an entrepreneur, listen to what Scott just said. All great things begin with curiosity, humility, and also, I think, connection. I think go and meet the people who are doing the thing it is that you want to do. Go be curious and read deposition transcripts and watch trial or whatever it is that you do. If you're a trust lawyer, go and talk to the best trust lawyer you can find. And I think that is the single greatest hack. And being able to, I'm going to read a transcript I don't understand. I don't understand trial. I want to understand it more. And being very motivated to be curious.
Yeah, and especially if you are learning to be a trial lawyer, you go take a transcript to any trial lawyer and start asking them questions about it. You will see their eyes light up, and they will spend as much time with you as possible. But moving on to the next phase, I assume you probably did the same thing. I don't know your background in college and whatnot, but I had zero business background. So when I started a law firm, it was basically like kind of coming out of, not even coming out of school because I had no school for it. I had to teach myself. I had to learn all of those different things. So as you kind of made that transition from trial lawyer to running a business, I assume you're probably still a trial lawyer as well. How did you learn that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, it really, for me, I was a solo and I was working a ridiculous amount of hours, and it always felt like people were mad at me, but I wasn't taking home the amount of money that I felt like I should be taking home given the amount of work that I was doing. And it was just a miserable existence. And so one day I decided, look, I'm not living like this. I can go and I can work for somebody else and probably make better money without all of this headache. So I'm like, I have to figure out how to do it. I'm like, because there are people out there who make this work for them. on different levels. And I'm like, I have to, just like I had to figure out how to do a cross-examination, I've got to figure this out. I read John Fisher's Power of a System book, which started me on a journey of not answering my phones, which was actually a big liberating thing. Stop answering my phones so I could focus on work. I also joined the Rosen Institute by Lee Rosen, and I started learning, from Lee about how to build a law firm, how to run a law firm, what are the things that were important, not important. And then I just started reading and listening to podcasts and joining Facebook groups. And that ultimately did lead to masterminds, coaching, consulting along my way. So it's been a constant process because it's all really new level, new devil stuff. So you learn the beginning stuff, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff you have to learn. And then you get to, 20 people, and there's other things, and 30 people and 40 people, and your revenues go from, a few $100,000 to 8 figures or in that ballpark. Like those all require different skill sets. So you're constantly needing to learn and refine and get better at what it is you're doing. So I think it's a combination of having great mentors in the space. John Nackhazel from Fireproof, certainly one. Kate Nackhazel from Fireproof, another, and just learning different lessons from people who have been it and been there, done that, and probably done a lot more than me, or certainly.
Yeah. And so once again, we kind of go back to the same framework as becoming a better lawyer, right? Because as a lawyer, new level, new devil works as well. The more complex cases you start getting into, boy, those devils come at you fast and hard. But what you're doing is you're finding the masters, right? You're reading their work. You're finding people to mentor you who have been successful and who have learned. And you're just putting in the time, effort, and energy into really becoming the absolute best you can. I didn't know that about your background. I was in the Lee Rosen Institute as well for a little while, and eventually kind of transitioned from that into great legal marketing and into masterminds and those kinds of things as well. And man, has it sped up the process of learning, dealing with some people who have already, built what, I'm after, or have faced those same problems and have found, hey, look, yeah, everybody's going to go through this process right here. Here's how you get around it, or here's about how long it takes to figure these different things out. So now you are moving into your hopefully quote unquote best era, and you're doing the consulting. But let's talk a little bit about the UConn class that you're going to be teaching. You've talked quite a bit about that on LinkedIn, and you've already put together a reading list and the different aspects that you're planning on covering. What topic are you most excited about teaching?
Great question. So what happened is actually this class exists because of LinkedIn. Ebony Nelson, who is dean of UConn Law School, connected with me on LinkedIn, followed my business post, and said, "Hey, Ryan, do you want to have dinner?" And then at dinner, she said, "Hey, why don't you become an adjunct here and teach a class on how you want to do this?" And I said, "Wow." I said that's a really awesome opportunity, because this gets back to sort of what I'm doing with Best Era, which is I'm going to build the class I wish I had been able to take when I was a law student. Okay. And I said, okay. And I said, well, what do you want? And she's, what do I have to do? And she's like, you have free reign to make this course whatever you want. And I'm like,
oh wow.
Awesome. I'm like, oh, awesome. So I can assign whatever books, I can teach however I want. I can assign different projects. And she's like, absolutely. She's like, whatever, you have academic freedom. And I was like, yes. And so I said, look, I want to teach, and this is a fantastic opportunity, and the law school's right down the road for me. And I'm like, I really, really welcome this. And so I've been in the past few months developing some curriculum, looking at books that I want them to read. And I think the thing that I'm most excited about teaching them is really the mindset that is required, and the shift, the difference between being a lawyer and being a business person, and what that all means, and the realities of legal business. And I think whether or not they go on to run their own firms or work in firms, they're going to have a better understanding of what it is that is happening around them that will ultimately make them, I think, more professionally effective, even if they never start a firm.
Oh, I could not agree more with that, especially on the mindset front, because mindset transcends whether you're, an entrepreneur, whether you are a lawyer and eventually a partner. It transcends the legal field, right? Mindset is everything to anyone, and teaching them the mindset is an amazing, a huge benefit, because mindset was never talked about with me in law school or college or anything. And so if you've kind of gone down that path a little bit, what are the type of mindset, bullet points that you're going to be talking about with them?
Well, one of which is, the mindset that you're taught as a lawyer of, when you ship a brief, you have an obligation that it is perfect, that you have thought of everything that you can possibly think of, that it's grammatically correct, you have all of these skills as a technician that are incredibly valuable. And when you're actually running a firm, um, uh, it's becomes really important to move quickly in different ways, and very important to um, make decisions when you have maybe 80% of the information that you need if you're in a leadership position, and also to take some risks in different ways that you may not take as a lawyer, right? Um, and I think that's one specific mindset shift. I also definitely want to talk about abundance mindset. I think that there's a lot of scarcity mindset in the legal profession, and what that means and what the rewards of that are, and how that can impact their career. So I think that those are probably the two biggest things. I'm going to begin by teaching E-Myth and talking about how lawyers are technicians, and if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have I think he refers to it as a fit of autonomy or entrepreneurialism, and you're going to have to go through that process of transitioning in a way.
Yeah, that is an incredibly hard transition to make as well. Going from, this has to be perfect, I need to spend time thinking through all the different arguments, to, okay, I love it when I have 80% of the information before I got to make a decision. That's fantastic. Right. I can't tell you the last time we've had 100% of the information we needed to make decisions. But, I think having that skill set to be able to transition, especially if you're going to still practice while owning the law firm, you got to be able to make those mindset transitions and be fine with it. Make the call and then forget about it. Let whatever happens happen. And then you go focus on, what you do need to be focused on. That's really hard. And to this day, there's still decisions I make that I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm like, man, was that the right call? Was that the right call?
Right. Yep.
And so, okay. So there's mindset for you. Well, let me ask you this. How did you kind of go through that process of, technician mindset to that entrepreneurial mindset of having to think quick and make decisions fast?
Painfully. I think I resisted it for so long, and so I think it was a real process of being around people who had done it. I think it was a process of reading and reflecting, and also just sort of vision as to where I wanted my life to be. So those are I think the key things, and I think I resisted it for a very long time. And I think it was hard to sort of give up the idea, like, I'm a lawyer, that's what I do, and focus more onto the business side of the firm. But that became more necessary as the firm grew larger.
Yeah, and I think too, being a trial lawyer probably helped, right? Because all the things leading up to trial, you spend time on, you think through. But man, once that jury's seated, all bets are off, and you just got to think on your feet and make decisions. And you may make the right decision, you may make a terrible decision, but it's one that had to be made regardless. You didn't have time. Hey, Judge, can we take a recess so I can think about this for an hour? I don't think that would go over too well in any court in the United States. But I think that probably helped as well. I know that's definitely one of the things that helped me be able to kind of transition to that mindset. That, plus I'm a 9 out of 10 quick start on the Colby. So that's my nature.
Yep. Yeah. And you're right. Being a trial lawyer, look, there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of speed. There's a lot of fluidity in situations that you deal with. and uncertainty, and being able to move decisively and quickly are definitely important skills. And certainly plaintiffs trial lawyers, we're the daredevils of the profession, without question. So it probably is an easier shift for somebody who's done that work, but not, it's still hard.
Absolutely. So one of the things, you said you were super excited about teaching the mindset part. You're a big marketing guy too. And so how much marketing do you have in the course?
I'm going to dedicate 2 classes to marketing. And one of which is sort of understanding, what marketing is, understanding, how to market with little budget, how to market with larger budget, what sort of happens, what questions to be aware of with vendors, what the different arenas are that marketing. And I'm also going to talk to them really about, I think what's incredibly valuable, which is like growing their networks and how to do that and how to tap into what it is that they already have. Because certainly anything we talk about with what's going on online in 5 years, it's going to be obsolete. But I want them to have some foundation in that. So I think we're going to spend, I think it's definitely two classes onto marketing, because look, if you're in the legal entrepreneurial space, you can be the best trial lawyer, you can be the best real estate lawyer, whatever it is that you do. But if you don't have clients, it doesn't matter. And so starting them to think about how they can acquire clients and build that for themselves and build their brand.
So when it comes to networking, kind of give me your thought process as to how do you approach that?
Yeah, I think that the networking is pretty simple. You've got to show up somewhere, or got to show up where people are, and that can be online. That can be on LinkedIn, or other communities. You could have Slack communities, Facebook communities, whatever. But showing up, engaging, commenting, talking with people, listening to people, and trying to add value in whatever it is that you do, whether you're having lunch with somebody, or you're at an event, or you're online. And so if you can do that, and people know, it's all know, like, and trust. And if you're able to do those things consistently, like, you're going to, without fail, build a book of business.
Love it. I just listened. I'm probably one of the very last people to have gone through this book, but The Go-Giver. I'm hearing
Yeah.
Definitely phrasing from The Go-Giver. Are you a Go-Giver kind of guy?
Yep. And that's on the reading list. Yes, it is.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Okay. So marketing, one of the things that you also said was on there is systems. If I'm a law school student and I see systems on there, I'm probably like, oh my gosh, systems, that sounds incredibly boring. But I got to tell you, that's probably one of the top 3 things that you're going to talk about in law school. Tell us a little bit about the importance of systems.
Yeah, systems are how you achieve freedom and profit ultimately in a business. Like, a business isn't many things, but a business is its marketing, its ability to generate new business, its people who work in the business, and its systems, right? So systems are it's a 3-legged stool. Systems is one of those things. And, every single law firm in this country, every organization has systems. You can't exist without them. It's how you do what it is you do. The only question is, are they documented and are they accessible? So, even if you're a solo, you're a solo divorce attorney, you have a paralegal, your paralegal has a system as to how to handle mail, right? But as you scale, that system needs to be known within the firm, and it needs to be adapted by everyone and followed. And then that allows you to scale, so you're not having different people scan the mail in different ways, so you know where the mail is. And that's where you build efficiency and profit in a business and in a law firm. So it's simply taking the time to document what it is that you do and also put it into a format that is accessible. It's not really hard.
Yeah, and also having the mindset too of, just because a system is there and that's how you do it and that's how it's written, doesn't make it sacred, right? One of my favorite things that we do at Snellings Law is we have weekly meetings, and one of the things we talk about is systems. Like, hey, what's broken? What's not working? What can work better? What's your mindset like on kind of that? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, systems always change. I mean, look, the courts change some process. You need to change your systems. If you scale, you need to change your systems. Um, because what worked when it was you and a paralegal doesn't work when you're a team of 25 people. It just doesn't work.
Right.
So I think everything needs to be evaluated and changed and improved constantly. So it's never a set it and forget it. It's really a mindset and an ongoing conversation and an ongoing process. And you just need ways to update, document, change. You need a system to manage systems, I guess, ultimately.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously those are super important. Do you have a section on leadership that you're putting in?
I don't have a specific section on leadership. I do. I mean, I think the whole class itself is the whole semester is that's the overarching theme. I don't. I mean, I'm going to talk about ownership. I'm going to talk about accountability. I'm going to talk, when we talk about mindset. But I don't have a week dedicated to leadership. I don't think. One of the books, maybe. I mean, I guess one of the sections is really going to be on radical candor, the book, and how to handle tough issues that are going to come to you when it is that you're running a firm.
All right. Tell me this. Do you guys talk about time management? Because one of the things that I've noticed, and this isn't just for entrepreneurs or people that own their own law firms, this is kind of newer attorneys in general. I think one of the hardest things for newer attorneys to do is figure out what's the most important and how to break up their time, how to set up their day to be most effective.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely going to be talked about because it's so easy in today's world to just be reactive as a lawyer. And the constant email, the constant call. I mean, so things like scheduling when you look your emails, scheduling when you take calls, scheduling time in the morning to think, to plan. Really taking control of your calendar is definitely something that time management is absolutely going to be talked about. Because if you're a lawyer, it's hard, and if you're a lawyer and business owner, it becomes exponentially harder.
Agree. All right. So this sounds like an amazing class. And I believe you said it was already booked up. It was already full. Is that right?
Yeah, it's full. There's a waiting list. And I get a whole bunch of messages on LinkedIn from local lawyers who are like, hey, can I audit? So
well, and that was kind of,
there's a real need for it.
Yeah.
Because Ebony knows her stuff.
And that was going to lead to my next question of, is there a way for either law students who couldn't get into your class or attorneys who are super interested to quote unquote audit your class? Is there a way for that to happen?
Yeah, I am going to build, we're moving into an office, and we're building a studio. Probably not as nice as the one you're in, but we're going to build the studio, and I'm going to condense the class into an online class that we should be offering sometime in the fall from Best Era. So I'll let people know when that gets out. But it's essentially taking the same concepts, and it's really designed, for lawyers or law firm owners who are looking to start a practice, or probably under $500,000 in revenue, or are people who are looking to get the fundamentals on running a law firm. Because so much about, football coaches will say so much about football is blocking and tackling, right? And they're correct. And so much about running a law firm really is about the fundamentals. I'm actively working on that project and should be filming this summer.
Awesome. All right, you and I had a little back and forth on LinkedIn. Tell me your thoughts on what are some of the things that when you first started your firm that you really didn't see coming? You thought through the finances, you thought through, hey, marketing, I got to get cases, you thought through this. What are some things that just completely blindsided you?
Everything. Just to give you an idea. So when I started in 2012, I had partners, Megan Freed and Kristen Marcroft, who have a wonderfully successful family firm here in Hartford. And so this is like, and this is something you're going to have to get used to. So we are building out an office. And then one day our contractor didn't file the right paperwork with the city of Hartford. An inspector walks in and shuts down this office build, right? It just says, no, everybody has to leave the site. Like, oh God, we're supposed to have an event here in a few weeks and our contractors have been thrown out. So we have to get that solved. Then as we're supposed to open, the Northeast got hit with this, what they call Superstorm Sandy, which was essentially like a November hurricane that caused all sorts of flooding, down trees, and a giant mess. So that happened. And then so we did get open, right? And then all of a sudden, one January day, water came gushing through the ceiling. Somebody floors above us had a pipe burst, and we were on the first floor, so water flooded our office. So our office became completely unusable that we'd spent months renovating. So then we get back in, and one day I'm going in, and all of a sudden I see water just start dripping from the lights, and I'm like, oh God! Somebody had turned on the valve that had been turned off when the pipes flooded in January, causing more flooding.
Oh no!
So I would say, when you do this, like, there's a whole bunch of things that are going to go completely sideways in ways that you, no matter what you plan for, could never have predicted. Certainly COVID in 2020, when the court shut down, that was also not fun, and revenues went down 50% year over year. And trying to keep people employed and sane and dealing with all sorts of regulatory changes. And an infinite host of, I would say, lesser but equally as sort of disruptive things. But I think what happens is, as you go through these things as an entrepreneur, one is you have to recognize that they're normal. And two, you sort of build a resilience muscle of getting through. You're like, oh, okay, that's water falling through my ceiling, as opposed to, oh my gosh, my firm's going to go bankrupt. And you're like, okay, well, how do I fix this problem? And so really it is making you stronger as a leader as you face these challenges, and you're going to face them. I'm going to face them with facilities. You're going to face them with clients. You're going to face them with personnel. You're going to face them with finance, and you're going to face them with things that are completely out of your control. Interest rates going up. I mean, you just roll with it.
and it never stops, ever.
Nope.
It's going to be one of those things that you deal with for your entire career. Yeah. When we moved into our current building, we had to have it built out as well. And I had the internet people show up, and you're like, there's no wiring for this. I didn't realize that I was supposed to go hire someone to wire the building for internet because nobody ever told me that. And I had no idea. I just assumed that when they were building it out that they were wiring it for internet. Not the case.
Yep. Internet's going to go out. Software's going to crash. Computers aren't going to work. Key employees are going to quit. People are going to get sick. You just roll with it. Bills are going to come in that you didn't expect. And you're waiting for that settlement check that you think is going to come in this week, and it doesn't come in for 6 weeks. All of those things happen.
Yeah. Or the insurance company declares bankruptcy, and guess what? You're never going to get that check. Yeah.
Yep.
It is problem after problem especially on some weeks. It feels like all you're doing is managing disasters. All right, Ryan, we are almost out of time, but I do have some final questions for you. First off, give me your top 3 books. And you're a book guy, and so nothing that's on your syllabus right now. How about that? We'll make it a little harder.
Nothing that's on my syllabus. Are these business books or any books?
Any books. You can go fiction, you can go business. Doesn't matter.
Ooh, not on my syllabus. Things that I that I love. I like Stephen King for fiction. I love his 11/22/63 book. I think that's just a fantastic read. And for those who don't know, it's about the Kennedy assassination and about being able to travel back in time to stop Lee Harvey Oswald. So that's a really good book. I really also, I mean, I enjoy reading fiction a lot. So I'm going to also put the Hunger Games series, I think, like as one book. I think that's I don't know, just something that captured me and riveted me, held my attention. I'm trying to think of a third book here. One that I just couldn't put down. So many. Not also like not on my reading list.
I made that one really hard on you. By the way, the Stephen King book is amazing. I read that a couple of years ago, and living in Dallas, or in the Dallas area, we have the sixth floor museum, which is amazing. They redid it several years ago, but if you're ever in this area, definitely go check it out. It's funny because a lot of the streets and the things that he's talking about in that book, I can picture them in my head because I know exactly where they are.
Yeah, no, I went down to the sixth floor museum. Fantastic museum, fantastic experience. And you know what? I am gonna go with. I love biographies, and I'm gonna put Theodore Rex on there by Edmund Morris. I really thought that was a great biography, or Theodore Rex about Teddy Roosevelt. I thought it was just an interesting biography and take on history. Or also The Great Bridge by David McCullough, which is about the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge, which I found fascinating.
Very cool. It's amazing that, and I'm sure it's a long book because the rest of his are. It's amazing that you can write an interesting book on how to build a bridge or how they built the bridge.
I'm a history major, and it's just fascinating to see how the political, economic, social, engineering challenges that they faced to pull off something that you just sort of take for granted, right? A bridge.
Right.
And obviously, like, it's New York, and so there are big characters. There's all of human folly is on full display as they try to build this bridge. So, and the good and the bad. It's just I think it's a great book.
Very cool. Okay, final question. You and I are both Pearl Jam fans. What's your favorite album?
Man, I am really loving Dark Matter, but I don't know if I'm going to put it as my favorite just yet. I love Binaural and No Code, I think, are probably the two that I otherwise listen to the most. But Dark Matter is really, really good, and I enjoy that one a lot.
Yeah, I've listened to Wreckage. I don't know how many times. I love that one. That song on Dark Matter.
Yep.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. I was really looking forward to this, and you did not disappoint. Thank you so much for being on The Driven Crowd. And to all of you listening in, thank you so much, and we will see you next time on The Driven Crowd podcast.